Y'all really let Chris from Get Out come up out the sunken place and play the great ancestor Fred Hampton? But why though?
What was the reason?
I just explained the reason.
What was the reason, bitch?
I don't need to explain myself to you. And
What was the reason?
Hey y'all, it's your favorite black ass cousin, and I'm back for a quick episode of But Why Though? Let's talk about it. Everyone is getting into Judas and the Black Messiah. It is the new movie, the new black film. Y'all know we only get but so many every now and then. But this is the latest one that's out, and of course there are some major names on the marquee, such as Daniel Kaluuya. We know him from Get Out. We of course know him from Black Panther. And speaking of the Black Panthers, we now have him starring as the amazing, one of my nearest and dearest ancestors, the Fred Hampton. So let's get right into it. There may be a little bit of spoilers, so if you haven't watched, you might want to come on back because I got a lot to say. So if you are unfamiliar, Judas and the Black Messiah gives the story of William O'Neill and how that rat bastard pretty much turned on, he was an informant for the FBI, and he was the snitch that ultimately caused the murder, the massacre of Fred Hampton and several others in his home. At the tender age of 21 years old, we lost such a prolific figure. But that is what the synopsis of the movie is about. So let's really dive into the particulars here. So y'all know I'm always gonna start with the positives because I got a lot other things to say. But the positive parts are that the cinematography was amazing, beautifully filmed. I mean, the lighting on their black skin, the angles, the fashions, the lingo, how it was written, it was a perfect period piece. It didn't feel like they were trying to not really truly pay homage to that time period. It was a great juxtaposition because they had all of those key elements of that time frame, but then they had some very new artists, because this soundtrack is phenomenal. Regardless of what I think of the movie, the soundtrack is fire. Y'all gotta check it out. Check out that Nipsey and Jay-Z joint on there too. The marathon continues. Yes, so to start off, the things that I loved, again, the cinematography, and I absolutely loved the black women in this film. They were done right. Yes, give it up for the black women. They were everything, honey. I mean, really everything. Serving, from the looks, I mean, from the energy. They really showed that the black women of the Black Panther Party were so profound. Yes, what Beyonce said, ran by the men, but the women keep the tempo. That right there is the complete truth of how the actual Black Panther Party was. So I love that that was depicted properly in this film. We saw the strength of the black women in the organization. We saw their importance. We saw the inclusion and the respect given to them in the organization, and knowing that they were not only the mothers and the caretakers, but also the leaders, the organizers, and the militants. Because the women, like in real life, in the film, and in true history, the women of the Black Panther Party were not afraid to bear arms. And let me tell you, seeing that imagery of these beautiful black women with those afros to the sky, them yappas out the window, listen, just black greatness, and unapologetic and revolutionary. That was beautiful. Shout out to the amazing black women in the film. We had Dominique Fishback as Deborah, who was Fred Hampton's girlfriend, wife, mother of his child. All of that, held it down, did an amazing job. And I look forward to seeing her in more things, because she was also amazing. The other thing that I really, really loved, like I said, for the women, this film overall actually was very honest in their depiction. They didn't really leave, like everything that they included A lot of it was factual. This wasn't like other movies about our great legendary people, such as the Harriet film, where they just kind of threw random stuff in there that they made up, or that Madam C.J. Walker docuseries that was on Netflix, where they just literally again just made things up for the film industry to, you know, make it more entertaining. They didn't have to do that because the Panthers was about that action, and they didn't have to make anything up. And all that our amazing ancestors went through, they really did tell the truth in showing their true story. So definitely love that, because it's not something that we get often with these depictions of Black life and Black history in Hollywood. Now, let's get to it. I ain't gonna hold you. This movie just didn't do it for me. I didn't feel the passion. I didn't feel the connection. I am someone who is very influenced by the Black Panther Party. I've spent years researching the impact, their protocols, their infrastructure, their beliefs, their school systems, like their aspirations, their military operations. I have fully entrenched myself in that world because they are such that part of history is something I have a major respect for. I think that they had the blueprint. I think that they had it right. I think that a lot of what they were doing was so positive and impactful and revolutionary for our people. I think that they really did lay the blueprint in the footsteps for us to follow. They were just unfortunately diverted by, as we can see in this film, Judas and the Black Messiah. It was like most times it usually is the government. The assassinations, the false evidence claims, and false things within the judicial system of just being caught up on lies and being set up by the cops, basically. I ain't gonna keep it cute. I'm gonna keep it real. Just being set up by the cops, being looked at as all these things, literally having J. Edgar Hoover say that they are the biggest threat, like they're a terrorist group, which again, they are so prolific and so profound to me because that is it resembles what we're dealing with today. They said the same thing about the Black Lives Matter movement and the protests and the things that they were doing, that they are literally deemed a terrorist group, but the KKK and all of these organizations still are thriving. But they looked at the things that were the two organizations that their primary goal was to empower the Black community is viewed as a terroristic group. Like, miss me, but history repeats itself. Like, let's just look at it. So yeah, I ain't even gonna talk about that because that's a whole nother video. But back to the film, Judas and the Black Messiah. While I am happy that we finally have an actual film depiction of the amazing ancestor that was Fred Hampton, I really genuinely just wish that he received his flowers prior to us having to show the entire life story and trying to humanize William O'Neill. At the end of the day, I don't feel like William O'Neill should get as much attention and shine as this movie provided. And if this was going to come to show the depths and the tragedy of the betrayal, then give us the life story of Fred Hampton first. Let us get that. Because at the end of the day, you don't rise to be literally the leader of a huge Black organization like the Black Panther Party during that time without making some noise. You don't get to that level of prominence. He was literally the chairman of the Chicago chapter of the Black Panther Party. Like, really think about all of the work that he had to put in. And he was doing this at such a young age. I would have loved for us to see what molded Fred Hampton to be such a prolific leader. What was he like in high school? What were his family members like? Who were his influences? What books did he read? What did he do? And the sad thing about it is, because the movie just specifically focused on the betrayal and the deception that was Bill O'Neal, we did a disservice to Fred Hampton and his amazing legacy when we could have just got his whole story first. We should have gave Fred Hampton his flowers first. We should have shown how this teenager was able to rise to be such a prolific, profound leader in his literal teenage years. He died at the age of 21. So all that he was doing was he was young. Think about what you were doing at 18 to 21. He had such an amazing life, almost as if he was literally made to be the leader that he was. At 10 years old, he was literally hosting a weekend breakfast for the other kids in his neighborhood, which would ultimately, just life is full circle. That ultimately became the free breakfast program for the Black Panther Party. That's the energy that Fred Hampton was on at 10 years old. In high school, Fred Hampton was leading protests and walkouts and sit-ins and all of these acts of just rebellion in honor of Black people and our rights. He was doing this in high school, holding protests to hire more Black teachers and administrators, holding protests to pretty much go against the fact that the Black students couldn't run for the homecoming court. I know, just this man was made for all of this, and we don't get any of this in the film because the main film, which again I know is called Judas and the Black Messiah, but I'm saying all this to say, my point is this: we should have given Fred Hampton his flowers first before we focused on the importance of the betrayal of Bill O'Neal. Also, I wish that the film would have shown a little more information about the post-assassination investigation, meaning everything that happened after they came in and murdered him. Because not only was the murder itself a complete, huge tragedy for the Black community, the amount of government officials and effort and finances and everything that was poured into covering up the murder of Fred Hampton is an entire movie in itself. There were 99 bullets fired that night by the police. For years, they have blatantly lied and stated that came from the members of the Black Panther Party, when in all actuality, the evidence has shown that only one of the 99 found in that home came from a member of the Black Panther Party, and it was literally a shot that was fired in a reactionary way, because he himself was hit and he was literally guarding the door, which is portrayed in the movie, which again, like I said, they did a really good job at being accurate. But it's like the amount of energy and the effort and the cover up by the government is just as important as the story of Bill O'Neal in itself. So it's like, if we're not going to give Fred his flowers and really tell his life, if we are going to focus on this Bill O'Neal thing, this William O'Neal betrayal and deception, we also should talk about the government. They did show in the movie all that happened in the process leading up to the assassination, but the amount of work done after was just as bad. And we definitely should have got a little bit more of information on that, because people really need to understand what's really going on out here. How did we let Chris come on out the sunken place and then go to play our amazing, iconic ancestor, Fred Hampton? I'm sorry, y'all. I am just starting to really question this blatant push that we have in Hollywood to continue to portray Black American historical legends and icons most of the biopics or biopics for Black historic legends from America. Because again, we Black, we all over. I get that. Specifically Black American history. How is it that all of those major roles keep going to Black people who are not of the African American experience? So at this point, we've had Daniel Kaluuya portraying Fred Hampton. We've had David Oyelowo portraying Martin Luther King. We had Cynthia Erivo portraying Harriet Tubman, and we had Carmen Ejogo as Coretta Scott King. All four of those people that I just mentioned are all Black and British. And again, I'm not one to do the whole, oh, you're Black from there and I'm Black from here and we beefing. Because at the end of the day, it's all the African diaspora. So hear me out on that. I'm all about the unity. But also hear me on this. I think that at this point, it is strategic to not have a black person playing those roles that are of an American experience. There is a tinge of elitism in it. That's like, even though you're from here, as you may be Black and you may be from here and you may know your direct descendants were slaves in Mississippi and da-da-da-da-da, but you're not good enough to now. We need to profit off of these movies. So we don't want to put you in that space to then be able to have that power. It's just something about it, y'all. I don't know. And not only that, all four of the actors and actresses that I named, in addition to the countless others who are Black but of a British or UK experience, for one, they are very proud Black and British. And that's more so what they identify as, meaning they already have, and I'm specifically referring to their tweets, the things they've said in interview clips and everything. They have shown that they do not have the connection to Black American history and the Black American experience as we would even want them to feel that connection, because for some reason, which to me, I think it's all rooted in classism and elitism, they have openly drawn that fine line. So for me, it's troubling that these are the same people who are portraying our historical legends. Our Black revolutionaries are being portrayed by people who are not even really giving it up to be proud to be Black. They proud to be Black and British. You know, Daniel Kaluuya literally said, and I quote, "I'm not going to ignore that I'm surrounded by racial issues, but I'm not defined by it. I'm just Daniel, who happens to be Black. What is there to talk about race? It's just boring to me. What's the debate?" How can we expect the same man that has that mentality to portray the Fred Hampton, who literally gave his life, literally gave his physical presence and life form to the people, all power to the people? He literally would say in his speeches that he's gonna die fighting for the people, just as he did when he was murdered. So if the actor who's portraying him doesn't even have that same politic, I'm sorry, it's gonna be evident, and it was, just like we saw in Judas and the Black Messiah. I'm sorry, I didn't feel anything from Daniel Kaluuya as Fred Hampton. I didn't feel it. I commend him because I can tell he did the actor's work of studying the cadence of Fred Hampton's voice. That's the beauty of Black men wherever they're from. They talk and it's like a rhythm to it. It's like a bounce. And depending on what area and what region, the bounce might hit a little different. So he did the work to learn the bounce and the cadence of how Fred Hampton would talk. But that energy, that passion, that resiliency, that fight, I didn't feel it in any of the scenes. And that's disheartening because the legacy of Fred Hampton deserves so much more than that. But yeah, please make sure that you watch the film yourself so you can chime in and we can have a conversation. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you thought about Daniel Kaluuya's performance, Lakeith Stanfield, the black women, because yes, they absolutely were my favorite. But all in all, we really did let Chris from Get Out leave from being with his white girlfriend Rose and come out to Sunken Place, and then leave from England with his crumpets. Ain't that what they eat? I don't know. But we let him leave with that to come over here and play Fred Hampton. We got to have more of a gatekeeping system set up for Black Americans, or at least be in a space where other Blacks across the diaspora are reaching out and at least showing that love and respect and cohesion, connectivity, so we can all rise up. And if we don't do that, so yes, make sure that y'all check the movie out and make sure that you drop down in the comments so we can keep the conversation going. Hopefully we will not be sitting here doing this again for another Black biopic, because y'all already know I'm gonna be like, but why though? Peace.